Okay, so we're going to work on the tracing the logo exercise. To do this exercise, you're going to need to download the logo tutorial, logo template, and tracing a template image documents. I've already got them loaded here, so we're going to look at them. This is our JPEG template, and you might be looking at it thinking it looks just fine. Why am I going to bother to trace this? I'm going to zoom it in, and you can see I've barely zoomed it in, and it's really getting choppy here. So if I was a business owner and this was my logo and I wanted to display it on a big billboard, imagine how choppy and messy it would get if I blew it up that much. If my image is a vector image, I can make it as big or small as I please, and you're not going to get any of that choppy mess. So we're going to take this JPEG, use it as a template to make a vector of the logo. On this screen you can see how to take that JPEG image and turn it into a template for Illustrator so that you can trace it. We're going to be doing all of this along with the rest of the tutorial that you find here. So the first step is going to be to download the template. It's important to keep all of your files in a convenient place where you know how to find them later. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to create a folder just for this class and put this template there. So here under college, spring 22 semester, I'm going to create a digital illustration folder just for this class. Anything that I do in this class, I'm going to save it in that folder so I can always go back and find it. I'm going to make a folder just for this assignment. I'm going to call it Logo Tutorial. And I'm going to move this JPEG into my Logo Tutorial folder. Now I know exactly where to find it later. So we're going to go to the instructions. I'm going to go step by step with you to help you follow along. The first step it wants us to do is to launch Illustrator and make a new file. 6" by 6". I've already got that in there, but if you come up here and you see pixels or points or any of these others, just click on the inches and type in 6 by 6. If I zoom in on the window here, I can see other elements of this document. I can see that they're using CMYK mode for the color mode. That's what you would use if you're going to make a print. If you're using something just for online use, you want RGB mode. So while they've got it at CMYK, I'm going to go ahead and stick with RGB so we have proper coloring online. And they want a high 300 ppi document. So I've got that high 300 ppi. You can change this to the printing mode if you choose. I'm going to stick with online mode just for this tutorial. And create. So now we've got a 6" by 6" artboard that we're going to work on. Let's see what's next. This is the part that would be covered in this tutorial here about how to use your JPEG to make a template. We're going to choose File, Place. And I'm already open to my logo tutorial folder. There's my template. It's easy to find because I organized it. I'm not going to just double click it or click and hit place. Make sure to check this box before you place it. This is going to turn it into a template. And there it is. What template does is it gives you this softer toned version of the template. So now when you try to draw over it, it's going to be easy to see what you're doing. If it was fully colored and dark, it would be hard to draw over the black. It also locks it for you, so that anything you draw over it is not going to affect the template itself. You're not going to accidentally move it around. Here you can see a button that allows you to turn it on and off as you're working. And then up above it is your first layer. And that's where we're going to start working. Go to Illustrator, Preferences, choose Guides and Grid. So we're going to come up here, Illustrator and Preferences, Guides and Grid. It's telling us to have the grid line every 1 inch and 16 subdivisions. Yours is probably not already set like that, like mine is, so you're going to go here and make those changes. Grid line every 1 inch, subdivision 16. You're going to make sure that the grids in back is not checked because you want to be able to see the grid over your template. Hit OK. So we can't see it yet because we need to turn it on. So go to View, Rulers, Show Rulers. View. Come right down to Rulers and Show Rulers. Now you can see you've got one on the top here and one on the side. Then go to View, Show Grid. And we turn it on. And now we can see the grid over our template. Then go to View, Snap to Grid. This turns on snapping, and you're going to be learning about that here while you make guides. So next we're going to place our pointer over the vertical ruler, press and drag a vertical guide. So if I come over here and I click on my ruler and I drag, you can see it moving a guide back and forth on the screen. What snapping does is it makes it land perfectly on any of the grid lines. They want us to put it right in the middle at 3, so I'm going to put it a little bit off here so that you can see what to do if you don't get that perfect snap. If you zoom in and you see you're not right on the 3, you can pick that guide up and move it over to the 3 and snap it. Now you've got it right where you want it. And then it says to do the same with the horizontal, so we're going to go to the top ruler this time, press and drag. And we want it right around the 3 again. And we can zoom in and make sure we got it right where we want it. Perfect. So now we know exactly where our centers are, vertically and horizontally. Now we're ready to start tracing the template. Select the ellipse tool in the Tools panel, choose a red stroke and no fill. Generally, when you're drawing either with a shape tool or a pen tool, you want to have a stroke with no fill. Fills are easy to add later, but if you have a fill right now, all that dark color is going to cover your template, and it's going to be hard to draw the layers that you need underneath. So while drawing, go with a stroke and no fill. So let's turn on a stroke. Using the ellipse tool, choose a red stroke. This is going to make it easy for us to see the stroke over the black template in the background. Even though it's not the color we're going to stick with, that's easy to change later. Hold down the Option Alt key and the Shift keys. Press down the pointer and drag to the edges of the document. What these keys do is they make it easier to draw precisely. You can see me dragging this ellipse tool, and it's just kind of making warped ovals. It's not giving me a perfectly round shape. Now I'm holding down the mouse on this ellipse tool, and watch what happens when I press the Shift key. It gives me a perfect circle. If I let the Shift key go, I'm back to ovals. How about that Option Alt key? What that does is it allows you to start at a center point and drag out, and it'll build that circle for you from the center out. So here I am with my oval again. Shift key, perfect circle. Now let's say I want my circle to center right here on this line. I'm putting the Shift key so I have the circle and the Option key, and what that's going to do is draw the circle out from the center. So let's zoom in here. And we see where our blue lines cross. I want my circle to start right in the center, so I'm going to push the Option key. And you can see it's giving me that bullseye right in the center. I'm going to hit the Shift key so I get a perfect circle. Let's give it a try. Go right in the center, click Shift and Option and drag. And you can see it making a perfect circle for me from the center out. Now when I get it to where I want it, I'm going to release the mouse first and then the keyboard keys. If I release the keyboard keys first, I'm going to lose my shape and my center. So always release the mouse first and then the keyboard keys. So I've got my perfect circle here right where I want it. If we look in the layers, we can see that ellipse right here. I'm going to separate that from my guides. So I'm going to make a new layer. I'm going to click on the ellipse and drag it into the new layer. That way I can name this layer Guides and lock it. Now my guides aren't going to get pushed around while I'm drawing. Guides are safe. This is going to be my art layer where I'm doing all of my drawing. In this ellipse, you can see there are more than one ellipse in this project. We want to keep them all straight so we can find them easily later. So this is my out circle. Name it whatever you want so you'll be able to recognize it easily. In the control panel, change the stroke to a width of 4 points. Let's see what that means. So I've got my outer circle. You know it's selected because of the bubble here on the side. There's the stroke. It's 1 point. They're saying make it 4 points. So let's do that. Now it's easy for us to see and work with later. Let's lock that. So any art that we do from this point on is not going to affect that circle. It's safe. Go up to File, and let's save this. You want to save often. You don't want to lose your work and have to start back at an earlier point. So I'm in my logo tutorial folder. I'm going to name this Logo Trace. And let's move on. Next, you're going to repeat the same process to create the inner circle. This circle will be 6 subdivision units on each side, smaller than the outer circle. Let's see what that means. Basically, these are all subdividing lines. So if you counted them, there would be 6. Lucky for us, we have a template here, so we don't have to worry about counting. We can just follow the shape in the template. So we're going to draw our inner circle the same way we drew our outer circle. We've got our ellipse tool. We're going to go right into the center. We're going to press down on the Shift and Option or Alt key. So we have a perfectly round circle starting from the center. Click and drag. Get it where we want it. Release the mouse key first and then the keyboard keys. And this was our inner circle. Now we're not going to lock that one yet. We're going to do something else with it here. Once the circle is complete, select the scissors tool in the tools panel, hidden behind the eraser tool, and click to cut each one of the points on the horizontal line. They give you an image of that here. Here's our horizontal line, and you're going to work with the points here on the inner circle. So let's go to our eraser tool. We're going to click and hold, and there's our scissor tool. Working with our inner circle, we're going to use our anchor points here. We have anchor point 1, 2, 3, and 4 for our circle. We want to work with the ones on the horizontal line, so we're going to click here and here. And let's see what that did. Now we have a half circle here that is selected, but you can see the bottom of the circle is not selected. We just separated it. So if I click on that, now the bottom half is selected and the top half is not. So following the directions, we're going to select that bottom half and click the delete key on your keyboard. And there it goes. So our inner circle is now a half circle. Let's lock that to keep it safe. Looking good. Next, we're going to work on our rectangles. We have several of them, including the squares. To make the square, you use the same tool, the rectangle tool. The only difference is you're going to press the shift key. If you remember, the shift key is what made all the sides of our circle even, so we have a perfect circle. It does the same thing for our square. It makes all of the sides the same, so we have a perfect square. For the regular rectangles, we don't need the shift key. So let's just try it. We're going to go over and get our rectangle. And you'll notice they've made separate rectangles here for the top portion and the bottom portion. That's because they're using different fill colors later, and so you want to keep them separate. So let's start here, just click and drag, make our first rectangle, and you can see Illustrator is snapping us right on the grid line because we have snap activated. So there's our long rectangle. And we're going to lock it off. So now it's not going to get moved around when we're making the other shapes around it. Let's make our black portion here. I'll call that black top rec. And lock it off. Now we've got our squares. Remember the shift key because we want all of our sides to be equal because it's a square. So hit your shift key and drag. Notice how the yellow line on the right side of your square here is going right across the line of your rectangle. So it's lined up. Release your mouse key first and then your keyboard key. We're going to do this again. You could always duplicate this and just drag it down. To do that, you're going with your selection tool, pressing your Option or Alt key, grabbing the square and dragging it. And you've got a perfectly matching square. Let's save. And we've got our two squares here. We can see the one that's highlighted is the bottom square. So that's bottom square. And this will be the top square. Let's lock them off. And they're safe. Up here you can see they're not doing the two side rectangles yet. We're going to deal with those later. But we'll go ahead and make this one. These folders are locked, so if you try to draw while you've selected one of these, it's not going to work. So you always need to start with your folder for a new shape or line. Grab our rectangle and just drag it. And we can see it's lining up perfectly on that center line. And save. They're referring to these as the eyelashes for the eye. So I'm going to call this the center lash. And lock it up. It's looking good so far. Now we're going to choose the ellipse tool from the tools panel. Let me move this over so you can read it with me. And you're going to place the center pointer in the center of the black circle. In this case, they're talking about this oval right here. They're not talking about the round circle in the middle. So you want the center of the oval, which we know will be right on this center line. You're going to hold down the Alt key, and notice this time they're not telling you to hold the Shift key because you're not trying to make a perfect circle, you're making an oval. So the Alt key to start from the center and drag it out. Click on the folder because we're going to start a new shape. Go to our ellipse tool. Start right in the center. Hit the Alt key, and you can see our bullseye, and we're ready to drag. And we're going to drag it all the way out to the farthest points of that eye. You can move up or down with your mouse, out and in. And once you feel like you've got the points about right, that looks good. Remember, let go of your mouse first, and then your key. Next, they're telling us to come over and get the anchor point tool. What the anchor point tool is going to do is it's going to allow us to work with those 4 anchor points that you have in ellipse. Here they are on our drawing. 1, 2, 3, 4. Those are anchor points. If you have the pen tool open right now, click and hold, and you'll find the anchor point. Now we can click on any anchor point, and it's going to turn it into a sharp edge. There it is, perfect. Let's save. Now they want us to select the shape that we just created and click on the stroke line in the control panel. Once the stroke options are available, change the width to 20 point and change a line stroke to inside. Let's see what all of that means. We're selected on that path. Let's name that out eye. It's the outer line of the eye. So right here you see the stroke tool. If you click on it, you find that control panel that he was talking about. So 20 points. And they want the align stroke tool to be set to inside. You can see a line stroke right here. Here are our options. We got center, inside, and outside. So we're going to select inside. And there's our stroke. Now we're going to go to Object, Path, Outline the stroke. So up here we have Object, go to Path, and Outline Stroke. You can see how it changed now. Instead of being a stroke in the middle, we have an outline of the inside and outside of the shape. And instead of having a stroke with no fill, we have a fill with no stroke. So I'm going to undo that so you can see it happen again. Here we have the original stroke that we drew. We made it 20 points, so it's very thick. But now when we go up to Object, Path, Outline the stroke, now there are outlines on both sides of the stroke, and it's turned into a shape that has a fill with no stroke. Let's save. And we're going to lock that so we don't have to worry about making a mistake on it later. Now we're going to work on that center. And if you remember, we're going to use 2 keys for this one. We're going to use that that Option key to drag from the center, but we're also going to use Shift to make a perfect circle. So let's go back to our ellipse tool. We still have this set to fill with no stroke from the last line. Do you see the little bendy arrow here? If you click that, it's just going to swap them for you. So now we have no fill with a stroke. Go into the center. We're going to hit the Shift key and the Option key. We've got our bullseye and we're going to drag out. Let go of the mouse first and then the keyboard. And there we go. Next, we're going to work on those eyelashes. Let's go up here, name our layer eyeball, and lock it. Click back on the folder so we can add more art. Now we're going to go to our center lash here. It's easy to find because we named everything. So we know center lash is right here. We're going to unlock it. And by clicking the highlight to the side of this bubble here, we've now activated that layer so we can work on it. And you can see it here highlighted. As the instructions tell you here, there are many ways to accomplish this task, but we're going to follow the instructions for this assignment because it's always important to follow the instructions. So with that rectangle selected, we're going to choose the Rotate tool in the Tools panel. So we're going to use the Selection tool. We're selected, Object, Transform, and you can see lots of tools here that would do the job for you, but we're going to work with Rotate. It says to choose 30 for the rotation. So we're just going to type in 30. Now I can hit OK and it'll save it this way, but I really want to keep my center lash right. So I'm going to hit copy. And what that does is it gives me the 30-degree lash that I wanted, but it preserves the first lash as well. So now I can just grab this one, move it over, and the center is safe. Now we need to do one more, and they want it to be -30. So it's the exact opposite angle to fit this rectangle. So we'll go back to our original Object, Transform, Rotate. This time we want -30. And don't be dismayed that it's not giving you the preview that it should. You can click that off and click it back on and it'll give you the right angle. Again, I don't want to lose my center rectangle, so I'm going to hit copy. So now I've preserved my center and I've made my right eyelash here. Now I have 3 eyelashes that are all the exact same size. Let's save. Zooming it in, we can use the grid. We see 1, 2 from the center here. It looks like this one might be a little bit closer. Let's check. 1, 2, and 1, 2. So they're even. Save again. Lock these up and they're all safe. All right, we're moving. We've got all of our shapes created at this point. Now we get to do the fun part where we just fill them in with color. It's easy to do and you get to see your work start to come to life. So to begin, you're going to select the outer circle and choose a black fill color and no stroke. So outer circle, it's labeled, it's easy to find. We're going to unlock it and activate it. Go to the properties. We want no stroke, so we're going to hit the null button. And we want a fill of black. And there we go. Next, we're going to select the half circle and choose the green fill color and no stroke. Let's go back to our layers. This one's done. Let's lock it up. Our half circle, we're going to unlock it and activate it. I'm going to turn off the stroke and fill it with green. There it is. Let's lock that. Now we're going to fill in the rest of the shapes with the proper colors, and we can see them here. So I'm going to unlock all of these layers so that I can work on them in groups. So we have a group here. We have the long rectangle and the two squares that are both going to be green. So we're going to activate our long rectangle. We're going to hit the Shift key, and we're going to select our two squares, 1 and 2. Now all of those layers are activated, and I can go over to Properties, turn off the stroke, and turn on the fill. And they're good. Now we want the small square, or I'm sorry, the small rectangle here, the outline of the eye, the eyeball, and all of these lashes to be black. So I'm going to select the black rectangle. I'm going to hit the Shift key, go for the lashes, the outer eye, and the eyeball. Now Illustrator's confused because I've got both strokes and fills here. So we're just going to tell it what we want. We want no stroke and a fill of black. And there we go. Let's turn off the grid so we can see our work. There it is. It's ready to turn in. Just make sure to follow the professor's instructions for how she wants it saved and posted.